Welcome to Success in Business. This is where entrepreneurs gather together to share their nuggets of wisdom. And today we'd like to welcome guest Christopher Collins II. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, everybody. I'm happy to be here today.
So let me tell our audience about you. We'd like to introduce you a little bit. So Christopher Collins is an author. He's written a children's book. He's the owner of Collins Digital Services, and he's the chief deputy editor of a newspaper, the Anointed News Journal. So that's amazing. And he's the board member of a nonprofit organization, and he's the graduate of Penn State University. He lives in South Jersey, and he serves in his church, and he's been married for 11 years. He enjoys watching and playing sports, spending time with his family, and serving God and helping others. So we're so glad you're here on our show today, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I'm happy to be here with you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So Chris and I met. He actually interviewed me for his newspaper. So that will be coming out about the same time this will. So that's kind of fun that we've been able to collaborate in that way. And the newspaper, The Anointed, there's a whole story and background behind it. And I would love to hear and have our listeners and viewers hear about the Anointed newspaper and kind of how it got started.
Yeah. So the Anointed News Journal, it started about 1995, and my dad started it because lately I've been saying we've been around 30 years, and they're like, yeah, but you weren't around, right? Or whatever, something like that. I'm 34, so I was, but he started it. And the interesting scripture for his business, he started it with Habakkuk 2:2, like write the vision, make it plain, and wait on it, for it will surely come at an appointed time. So that, for some reason, that scripture really resonated with him when starting this business. He wasn't really good with English in school either. So the fact that he was able to make a newspaper was just kind of different. So, but he did it. He had his struggles he started in the 90s. So I guess back then they had to do an actual layout on some type of poster board type of thing, glue sticks and all that stuff. Now it's a lot easier, all digital, and you just send the file. But he had a lot of hard years, and he was able to eventually get successful. I think he said 15 years in, and then ever since then it's just continued to grow. And it was started as a monthly, just faith-based, and now it's a weekly publication, and it's faith and community-based, and we cover just all subjects.
Excellent. I love that. And then I have a question for you about it's a newspaper, the journal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The newspaper.
The newspaper. I would like to know, is there anything that people don't normally know about the inner workings of a newspaper that you could share that would be of interest?
I mean, it is cool to actually go to the printing press where we get them printed at, and kind of see these big rolls of paper that are just like ginormous, kind of as tall as a car.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. I would say on the other hand, it was kind of cool. You kind of start knowing the who's who of the area. You keep going to these press conferences and events, and then it's kind of like nothing now for me to see the mayor every week, or the congressperson and the assemblyman. And so it's almost like not even special. I see them all the time, so that's kind of, I think, interesting.
That's great. That's really cool. And then you said earlier that the before things were digital. So kind of explain what some of the processes were before your dad was able to use digital for the transfer of information.
Now see, I was a kid at the time, but so I do remember, so in his office he had this big, it looked like a cardboard grid board, and I guess that's how he would measure out the columns and measure out the pictures and all those things. And I guess you have to basically put together this big storyboard to send to the editors. You figure there could be all types of, just so tedious. I mean, you make a mistake, you just can't press backspace,
Yes.
But So those are one of the things that I remember. I'm not sure what other things had to go with that. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah, that's one of the old school
that's a big
things.
one right there.
Mhm.
Just that. Yeah, that's a lot different. And so then as you've seen the technology kind of change things, is there anything you've observed in your time during the newspaper where technology has changed the way things are done?
Um, so in my time, I've only been working with this newspaper for about 3 years.
Okay.
I've just been trying to incorporate as much technology as possible. I'm trying to see how AI can help us,
Oh, yeah.
but other than that, I've just been trying to incorporate everything from getting us more active on social media to how efficient can we be with different tasks that maybe there's a software out there to do, you know.
Yeah.
One in particular is, we like do an interview like this, and then we have to transcribe it and put it into the paper. So someone's literally watching the video and typing,
Oh,
and
wow.
that could take 2, 3, 4 hours just to type that up. So one thing I did very early when it was my turn to start typing, I'm like, I'm not going to be doing that. So I found a software online called Type Studio. It's only $18 a month. And I upload this video to it. And once I upload the video, within 2 minutes, it has the whole thing transcribed.
Nice. Nice.
Then I can eliminate filler words with one click, and then I just put it right into the Word document. So now from there, I would just have to clean it up just grammatically, but that saves hours right there.
That's awesome. Yes. Okay. Those are the kinds of things I was curious about. And then I would love to know what inspired you to write the children's book, and then also kind of tell us the plot or a little bit about the book.
So what inspired me to write the children's book was basically two things. Number one, I was just got done Ty Lopez's 67 Steps to Health, Wealth, Love, Happiness. And after that, I just wanted to start with some type of entrepreneur endeavor. So I took a course on how to make ebooks. So then I was like, all right, I'm going to write a book. And I wanted it to be something personal because I could have just did a book about anything. But I was like, no, I wanted it to be special to me. So I was thinking about it, my family special. And then on the other hand, we were having a tough situation in our family where um my brother he just had his first child, but it kind of seemed like I was in Kansas City, so it was already distant, and I live in New Jersey now, so my family's in New Jersey. So we were distant. But then also it was some conflict in the family where it looked like I wasn't going to get to see my nephew, So I was just inspired to write a story, and I dedicated it to my nephew about just
Oh,
how awesome family is and everything. So just putting
oh,
entrepreneurship together and my love of family, that's what inspired me to write the book.
oh, I love that. That's awesome. And say the title again so that people can find it.
Yes, it's called Chris's Family Celebration. So that's Chris and then an apostrophe S, Chris's Family Celebration, and it's on Amazon.
Okay, very nice, very nice. And we can put that in a link to that in the comments or the description, depending on where people find this videos. Okay, cool. And so I love that you shared the background of that and kind of how it started and then how you brought your talents. And speaking of your talents, tell us a little bit about your business that you've created.
Yes, so my business is called Collins Digital Services, and it started, well, some of my training started shortly after the book, where I took a social media marketing course. So basically, I do social media marketing, I build websites, I do photography and videography. Sounds like a lot, but all it really is kind of like media content creation, capturing media, editing it, building content for individuals and business owners. So those four things, and then matched with the newspaper, someone comes to us, you can get your any content you need and any marketing you need, and you're good to go.
Awesome. Awesome. And so tell us kind of how you got started. Why did you pick that as your business, and maybe a little bit about it?
So I got started. So I did another, that was another one, Ty Lopez course, social media marketing agency. Once I took that, I was just trying to get some clients. I was trying to leave my day job. At the time, I was in the healthcare IT field. And I guess like many stories, you get in the corporate world and find out you're unhappy. So it was time to try to move on. So I just started trying to get a good side job going of entrepreneurship. So I did the social media marketing, and I was able to get a few clients. Very One of them I even was a volunteer for, just to just to start getting the experience. And then so I had that. Then slowly I built a couple of websites. And the funny thing is I never even told people I could build websites, but I guess the good thing is sometimes when people have like stereotypical thoughts about you, they have those in a good way too. And a lot of people just assume I can do things. So I had a cousin of mine say, "Oh, you do websites, right?" And I'm like, I mean, I can help you do one, I can figure it out." So I started building websites. I built her a few websites. And then when I started helping my dad with the newspaper, that's when I started having a camera in my hand all the time. We take pictures for the newspaper for press conferences. People started asking me, can I take photos at their events? So then I had to study photography. Started studying photography. People want video as well. So I started studying videography. And that's how I was able to put the four together. I guess you could say graphic design would fit in too. I don't really advertise that too much, but whenever someone needs a flyer made up, I could do that. So um but yeah, I just put those four together and it just covers media and I guess marketing. But
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. I love it. I love your can-do attitude. Like maybe just being able to do things new that are new or different. That is so good. And then getting good at it and being able to provide these services. That's amazing. And I'm sure that it's been powerful to have your connections through the newspaper, through the community. People know
mhm.
you, they know, like, and trust you. And then you have those kind of relationships as you go forward into this other with your other business. So I think
Yes, definitely.
that's really cool. And then you've mentioned your focus on God and how
Mhm.
the Met or the newspaper itself is kind of started out, or it is currently kind of a religious focus.
It started out as that. I'm not sure what year it changed, but started out as that. So we still say one of our taglines is faith-based and professional newspaper for winners. Like that's our tagline. Um, so it's you would just think of it as just a regular newspaper with a I don't know if you want to say a faith-based attitude, like a regular newspaper, but we still talk about faith-based things as well.
Uh-huh.
That would probably be the best way to say it at this point. I like saying it's not a Christian newspaper anymore, but it's Christian owned, that type of thing. Cause, at this point we have just regular hospitals putting ads in and different things. So I think he tried to keep it faith-based until I guess there just wasn't enough ads coming in, or because it's a free newspaper, so we go by advertisements. That's how we
Okay.
make our money. Yeah.
Yes. But there is a focus on the community. It's a kind of a community.
Definitely.
So tell us about that focus.
So the focus on community. So the paper is based in Camden, New Jersey, which is right across the river and across the bridge from Philadelphia. And so that's where my dad was born and raised. And so it's all about highlighting Camden in a positive light. So anything good that's happening in community, good people who are doing things here, good people who are from here doing great things, any great funding that's coming here to create something like the revamped waterfront or the first hotel, I think they said in 30 years, right on the waterfront, a Hilton Garden Inn. So just different things like that to really just change the whole dynamic and be a place that people want to come to and do business here. So that's primarily what the paper is about.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I love that. I was curious about you had mentioned in your biography, and I haven't talked to you about this, but the foundation that you're a part of, you're on the board of, is it a nonprofit? Kind of tell us about that.
Nonprofit. Yes, it's called the Ree Wynn Foundation.
Yes.
And yes, it is a foundation to promote awareness and advocate for people with TTP. And TTP is a rare blood disease, and I'm going to pronounce it. Let me see. Thrombotic thrombocytopenic purpura. That's what TTP is. It could start with like blood clots and bruising, and depending on what happens, you could lose your life within 24 hours if you're not properly diagnosed. Unfortunately, we had a family member who died from TTP in 2012, I believe. And that's what caused my aunt to create the foundation. And from there, it's grown. And surprisingly, well, it's so rare. So we're actually the #1 organization for TTP in America.
Oh, wow.
So it's been over a decade now. So there are some other big ones in Canada, I think one's in like the UK, but we're the biggest foundation in America.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
and we have like events twice a year, one big bowling bash every year in March, and then one lunch jazzin' every year in November to raise funds. And we've been able to give like the University of Pennsylvania, I'm sure easily probably over $20,000 for research and things like that. So,
Wow.
and then most recently, we were able to get a grant for $50,000, which we're going to use as an emergency fund for patients who are struggling in certain areas of their life because of TTP, whether they can't pay a bill or get to a doctor's appointment. We're going to step in and help them with that.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's very generous and so touching. And that your family has this history that you've turned it around and made it be something that you can help other people. That's very, very positive. That's awesome. All right. So I want to ask a question about kind of just random life stuff. So like what purchase have you like purchased in the last year that was less than $100 that like positively benefited your life? Something random. And if you can tell us where you got it and the brand, if it
less than 100.
Yes.
So I got to think about last summer or up until this year. Okay. Less than 100 positively. Let me see. I don't know if I should say, I don't know if it would just be my well, being though I had to pick something. I'll say, so I just bought a what is it? External hard drive, 2 terabytes, and it was like $60. And that's critical now doing all this videography. I have like every time I finish a job, I have about 60 gigabytes worth of data. And my computer was already over full. And I had some old hard drives that were internal hard drives that I just pulled from other computers and was kind of using them as external hard drives, but they were even starting to run out. So I really needed to get an official external hard drive, terabytes, and so that's been very helpful.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. It's just fun. It's just a quirky question. So here's another one. So a lot of times people consider failures as bad, but people who are entrepreneurs and people who are in a growth mindset, they can change the way they view failure. So has there ever been a failure, or I would like to say apparent failure, that set you up for later success? So a favorite failure, I guess.
Yeah. It definitely has. And I do go back and connect the dots often. Let's see. Or maybe I don't look at them as failures is why this is hard.
Yes.
But so failure. I think, well, I don't know if I've had failure. I've had more so disappointments, like, you just think something's going to work and it doesn't. Like the career field was definitely a disappointment for me, which in a, well, yeah, I'll say like the career field. So like, you do good in school, get those good grades, you go to college, and and then I picked like Penn State University, one of the biggest universities around. Be like, oh yeah, they'll pick me over anybody else because I went to Penn State, and you come out and I couldn't find a career job for like 4 years. I was just working anything. I was working at Sam's Club and Walmart, Home Depot, things like that with a college degree. That was really made me really salty.
Yeah.
um, Eventually did get my career job. That's when I moved to Kansas City, Missouri to get it. Um, so that whole disappointment and then transferring back, getting it back home, but having a 3-hour round trip commute, that was like the lowest point in my life. At that point, going to work, like crying and cursing, like on the road, and just really just was tired of where I was. So that seemed like a failure, and then didn't have any other job prospects in mind. So it was like I didn't like the job I was at, but also didn't have anything else that I feel I could go to. Um, but in hindsight, that almost bitterness, if you will, towards the job industry is what gave me the passion to want to be an entrepreneur.
Mm.
And there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't know how you could do it. You talk to like the average person, they're like, I don't, that takes a lot of courage. I couldn't do that. I couldn't leave, my day job, my 401k, all these things. But it's like, for me, it's just such an inspiration to be an entrepreneur. And I guess it comes from the failures in the past that didn't work out for me, because I didn't have a problem wanting a 9 to 5, but just once I was in it, it just didn't feel right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so much life lessons, so many life lessons that you shared with us in that, like your experience and your path, and then what you decided to do and what fueled your
Mhm.
current choices. That's so good. And what do you like about your current choices? Like, what do you like about your lifestyle right now?
But I definitely always dreamed about being able to wake up and plan my day my way. I When I was just sitting in my cubicle, I was just like, oh, it'd be just so nice to wake up, get on a computer, check emails, go for a run, go help a family member who needs help with something, come back, do some afternoon work. Just plan my day the way I wanted to. Maybe work 3 hours in the afternoon, 3 hours in the evening, things like that. And so now being able to do that, regardless of what the income was when I left my job, it was already felt like a dream because I had freedom of my schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. That's so inspiring because most of my listeners are entrepreneurs or are looking at becoming entrepreneurs, transitioning. And so that's really helpful. All right, so we're going to wrap up pretty soon. And the last question I wanted to ask is, if you could have a gigantic billboard with anything on it, metaphorically speaking, to get a message out to the millions and billions in the world, what would the
Mhm.
message be you would like to share?
Hmm. Well, I would think if it's only one message, it would have to be like something like on the biblical side. Um, I don't know exactly what that would be. Um, but I guess yeah, I mean there's so many verses. So, and I don't necessarily have a favorite one right now, but I know you have things for a time period in your life. But I guess I would just say I'm just gonna go with one of the popular ones. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Um, or there's another one, I don't know what verse, but with God all things are possible. So
Yes, very
I would just
nice.
have that up. I mean, that would be a good one to have up regardless, even if that's not the top one.
Yes. Yes, it's just a fun question to ask and to think about, like, what do I want that's unique to me, that I care about, that I want the world to know? And so I love asking people that question. Awesome. Okay, so how do people find you, especially if they want to find more about your digital services and things like that? Like, how can they find you?
So I am on Facebook, Christopher Collins II. So Christopher Collins II, because that's the Roman numeral. Same thing, Christopher Collins II on Instagram. And then also my website is collins-digital.com. And from there, so any of those you can find me. All my contact information's on there.
Great, great. Okay, so they can find you, and we'll also put those things in the description or in the comments. So awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you, Christopher, for being on the show today. We loved
Thank you.
having you.
Thank you so much, Stacy. I enjoyed my time. I wish it was even longer. I
You're welcome.
thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you. And we'd like to just encourage our listeners to tune in next time and just say thank you to everyone for participating, and everyone have a great day.